I was 14 years old that summer of 1972. In summer, we liked to go up on the roof of the apartment building. The structure, at the top of the elevator lift shaft, was surrounded by a concrete platform, and we would sit up there for hours, backs against the white brickwork, listening to a transistor radio and staring out across the town. To the north, we could look down on the parking lot of the big shopping plaza kitty corner to the apartment. The train tracks ran directly north of the plaza, and when a train went past, particularly a long freight, it was always a welcome diversion. It was Ted who spotted it. "What the heck's that?" "What?" "Out there by the tracks. That tower." "I don't see anything." Eventually, by squinting and by following the line pointed by Ted's finger, I was able to see it, a beige turret rising up in a wooded area by the tracks over near the fourth line. "Looks like Dracula's castle," I said. We debated for a while about the identity of the mysterious castle, but in the end, we decided the only thing to do was investigate. And an hour later, we were frantically pedaling our bikes through the roadside gravel, praying we didn't get wiped out by a truck. We were relieved to finally get to the fourth line, where, after crossing the tracks and following a rutted trail through the tall grass, we came upon the monolith, an abandoned silo. It was built of concrete weathered to a beige finish. The top, where the conical roof had been, was now open to the sky. It was surrounded by the remains of the foundation, which included a partial cement floor over a space large enough for me to stand up in. After parking our bikes against the foundation, Ted and I entered the lower section through a gap in the wall, which once may have held a pair of double doors. "What is this place?" I said. It felt cold and clammy after being out in the hot sun, so I added, "It feels like a crypt." "This must have been where they stored the grain," Ted said. "Stinks in here anyway," I said, for in addition to the chill, I had become aware of a noisome stench. Who knows what else I may have said, but at that moment our attention was distracted by the sound of an approaching car. "Someone's coming," Ted said. As if I hadn't noticed. We stepped out into the sunlight, which momentarily blinded us. When we had finished squinting, it was to see an enormous black 1950s tank crawling down the dirt trail towards us. The front grille, which resembled a huge grimace, was a dead giveaway as to the model. "Buick," I said, a statement, not a question. "Yeah, a 1951, Ted agreed. It was an auto town, so we knew all the cars. The Buick pulled up close to the foundation, where the shorter grass made a sort of clearing. The guy who climbed out was tall and incredibly thin and dressed entirely in black, including a turtleneck, even though it was as hot as hell outside. His dark clothes and mop of black hair set off the pallor of his thin face. He had large, bloodshot eyes and needed a shave. In short, he didn't look like anybody I'd want to mess with. "This is private property, boys," he said without preamble. "You have to leave now." You own this place, sir?" Ted said, kind of smart alecky. He always did have a big mouth. "This is private property. You have to leave now. We had no choice but to grab our bikes and go. The dark man made no effort to get back into the Buick, but watched us as we pedaled down the dirt trail until we were finally out of sight. We had both noticed that while he had said it was private property, he hadn't said it was his property. But we kept our thoughts to ourselves until we got back to the apartment, first checking over our shoulders to see if the old black tank was following us. "What the hell was that all about?" I said, annoyed at being run off. "He don't want kids running around there. Maybe they have wild parties there at night." "You think?" I said, suddenly very interested. "Maybe. But there is another explanation." "What?" "You know." "What?" "He's a Bob." "Eh?" "He's a night floater. He's got the look." "Oh, the night floaters. That's just little kid stuff," I said with a laugh. In our town, the local boogeyman, or men, boogie people, were the night floaters, a group or cult of malignant beings who were supposed to be able to detach their heads from the trunks of their bodies, the heads then being able to fly or float through the night to attack potential victims. When we were kids, we called them the Bobs, as the motion of these floating heads as they moved through the night was like the bobbing of an object on a body of water. Stories of these beings had haunted the darkness of my childhood. But I was going into high school now, so I no longer believed these campfire tales, these fairy tales, and I wasn't shy imparting my skepticism to Ted. "Okay," was all he said. While the incident angered me, I would have forgotten about it if the strange man had forgotten about me. Walking down Kerr Street one night, I thought I saw the old Buick a few blocks up the street, but it was dark, so I wasn't sure. But I was damn sure the next evening when Mom sent me to the grocery store across the way to pick up some milk, and the black Buick was there in the parking lot, its grimacing face staring directly at our apartment building. The tall, dark man was in the store too and followed me around. Every time I went down an aisle, I could see him standing at the other end. Heading for home, I snuck through the yard of a nearby business, then backtracked to the door of the apartment's service entrance. I did not want this guy seeing me enter the building. I thought I'd fooled him. I thought. Our apartment building was 10 stories high, 10 stories plus a penthouse, and, as I mentioned earlier, I loved going up on the roof and looking around. One night, I thought I would go up and see if I could spot the Buick over in the plaza parking lot. And sure enough, it was there. It was there. But I no sooner spotted it when something smacked me up the side of the head, knocking me to the concrete platform on which I stood. Stunned, I saw a white spherical object diving towards me. I couldn't process what I was looking at and thought it must be a bird of prey or maybe even a seagull. But then suddenly I realized it was a head, a human head, flying through the night air, the head of a man with a mop of black hair setting off the pallor of his thin face, his eyes large and bloodshot. He needed a shave and didn't look like anyone I'd want to mess with. It was the head of the man from the silo. I tried to get up, get back on my feet, but the head kept swooping me. The concrete platform on which I lay was only about 10 feet above the roof itself, so I quickly rolled over and, clinging momentarily to the edge, let myself drop down. I made a mad rush for the stairwell, but the head kept diving down on me, butting me, and I realized, to my horror, it was driving me towards the edge, trying to drive me off the roof, 10 stories to the street below. It might have succeeded, too, striking me again and again. But suddenly, the stairwell door opened, and Jock, the superintendent, was there. "What do you think you're doing, lad? Careful, or you'll be over the side." I saw the head fly off into the darkness, but Jock hadn't seen it. I mumbled something about looking at the view, and then slunk back downstairs. Jock told Mom, of course, who gave me hell. But that wasn't the worst of it. No, that wasn't the worst of it. For 2 nights later, I was found sleepwalking on the train tracks. It was 2 o'clock in the morning, and somehow I'd walked the 4 miles from Kerr Street to the silo. Walked the 4 miles from Kerr Street to the silo in my bare feet. To the silo, which stood like a leprous growth in the bright moonlight. But the moon wasn't the only bright light, as there was also the light of a speeding locomotive which had been bearing down on me when a cop grabbed me and pulled me off the tracks. The old people blamed it all on drugs, of course. Hey, it was the 70s. But I knew better. I was being summoned by them, summoned by the night floaters, summoned to the silo. And I didn't want to think about why. Mom's solution was to send me to live with my grandparents out on the farm. And there I remained. It was summer 73 when Mom sent me a clipping from the local rag. Boy, 16, victim of hit and run. The body of Theodore Bashubi, 16, of Bardos Drive, was found Sunday morning in a roadside ditch at the intersection of Spears Road and 4th Line, the apparent victim of a hit-and-run driver. Spears Road and 4th Line, where the silo was. So they got Ted. Murdered him in cold blood. Hit and run. It must have been the Buick. Well, I'm never going back there. I'm never going back. Never. And I didn't. Not for 10 long years. But I was driving the Queen Elizabeth Way and found myself passing the old hometown, passing the exit for the 4th Line. And so I got off. I felt compelled to get off. Curiosity killed the cat, eh? The silo was long gone, and I didn't know if I should be happy or sorry it was gone. In any event, I decided to head down Spears and see the old apartment building, visit the old neighborhood. But I hadn't gone very far when I saw it in my rear view mirror. A huge black car with a front grille resembling a huge grimace. A black 1951 Buick. I guess it's true. I guess it's true. You can't go home again. You shouldn't go home again. Still, it looks like someone missed me. If this is your first visit to my channel, please consider subscribing. My name is Warren, and I write and tell original ghost stories and original horror stories featuring such cryptids as the Night Floaters, werewolves, and the Black-Eyed Children. So, again, please consider subscribing. Please help me to reach my goal of 2,022 subs in 2022. Till midnight. Cheers. Pictures used in today's video, courtesy of Pix Here, that's PX Here, while the music was the haunting Living in the Dark by the incredibly talented Mayu.